hosted during Amazon Week 2025 here at the European Parliament. So the Amazon basin and the Pantanal biome are vital ecosystems that sustain global biodiversity, enhance and contribute to climate stability and resilience, as well as support the resilience of local communities. And the Amazon rainforest and Pantanal are actually also ecologically interconnected. The Amazon releases a vast amount of water vapor, forming a flying river of clouds. And those clouds, they generate essential rainfall that sustains the Pantanal seasonal flooding and biodiversity. But these ecosystems, as I would say all of you know, are undergoing threats, such as deforestation in the highlands, pollution, and sustainable resource exploitation. In response, regional and international actors are promoting sustainable solutions that balance environmental protection and restoration, as well as economic development. And these can be seen by initiatives such as the Pantanal Pact, which will be presented by Mr. Arthur Falsetti, in its connection to Wetlands International's call to action for the European Union Wetland Partnership, presented by then Dr. Chris Baker, with the aim to strengthening EU-Brazil cooperation ahead of COP30 in Belém. And speaking of COP30, which I would say the whole world is to a certain extent, we really do hope that the Baku to Belém roadmap considers adding more focus to water and wetlands, specifically on mobilizing finance for wetlands as nature-based solutions that are critical for our climate, for achieving climate goals and for climate resilience, and ensuring that finance plays a big role in ensuring the minimization on harm to wetland ecosystem from climate actions in other sectors as well, such as energy and agriculture. And lastly, we would like to thank MEP Annalisa Corrado for her continued commitment to bringing the wetlands agenda into the heart of the European Union policymaking. And please, we'd like to give you the floor then to give us some.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we will see the video
at the end.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you very much to be here to organize this kind of important network meeting. I think that it's a crucial issue to speak about, also because it's not an easy moment in Europe. It is not at all an easy moment in the world. Of course, we know exactly why, but it's not an easy moment in the Parliament, the European Parliament and the European institution to talk about green issues. We have a lot of problems in this kind of path, and we are facing the danger to have a lowering of ambition, but we know that we need a higher ambition and real instruments to go through the path we defined in the last mandate. So this is our work here, but it's not that easy. We know we are facing it every single day, I can say. But we know that it's important, so we will not give up at all. So it's a real pleasure for me. It's an honor to host this meeting and to discuss one of the most critical priorities of our time, the protection and restoration of wetlands, with a special focus on the Pantanal and the road to COP30 to Belém. Your presence here from civil society, government, science, and diplomacy, it's a clear sign that the momentum for nature-based climate action is growing, and the partnership across borders are not only possible, but essential. Multilateralism is possible, and we have to practice it every single time it's possible. As we look ahead to COP30 in Belém, we are reminded to the powerful symbolism and urgency of that location, a city at the heart of the Amazon basin, surrounded by some of the most vital and vibrant wetlands on Earth. This is the second event I'm proud to host as a part of Amazon Week, and today Our focus turned to the Pantanal, the world's largest tropical wetland and one of the Earth's richest ecosystems. Wetlands are the lifeblood of our planet. They absorb carbon, purify water, protect communities from floods, and sustain the livelihoods of millions. Yet they are disappearing 3 times faster than forests. This is not only an environmental crisis, but a social and economic one too. We are here to understand how to act together, to collaborate, to inspire each other. I would like to sincerely thank Wetland International for their tireless efforts in helping to organize this meeting and for their continued commitment to the restoration and protection of this critical ecosystem. It is also my pleasure to welcome Minister Elia Santos from the Brazil mission to the EU and to Mr. Arthur Falset, the correctors, okay, from Mato Grosso do Sul. Brazil has shown global leadership in offering Belém at the host city for COP30, and we need such a place after Dubai and Baku. Please give us a beautiful place, a powerful gesture that places nature, justice, and indigenous voices at the heart of climate conversation, and also conversation itself, because the problem in Dubai, in Baku, but also in Egypt, was also that there were not the voice of the NGOs that are being cut out of the conversation. The decision to host COP13 in Brazil must be matched with a fair share of responsibility from the international community. Brazil and other climate vulnerable countries must not face the climate crisis alone. The EU must step up, not only as a strategic partner, but as a moral actor committed to environmental diplomacy and multilateralism. Indeed, at a time when the international order is under threat, it is more vital than ever to reaffirm our belief in the United Nations system, in the power of dialogue, and in climate negotiation as tools of peace and sustainability. And we can see perfectly the link between decarbonization, peace, and sustainability. The climate crisis does not respect borders, and as the ENVI committee meets tomorrow to discuss our resolution to mandate for COP30, this conversation is especially timely. We also expect in early July the Commission proposal to revise EU climate law, a major step that will define our trajectory toward 2040 and beyond. These moments are not administrative milestones. They are political tests of our will, our ambition, and our unity. We must seize the momentum of COP30, not just as a conference, but as a catalyst. The first global stocktake showed how much more is needed. The world is off track, and the clock is ticking. Wetlands, along with forests, oceans, and soils, must be recognized not as afterthoughts, but as cornerstones of climate solution. Nature-based approaches are our greatest allies in mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. Let us use this platform to strengthen our cooperation strategies across Europe, Brazil, Latin America, across institutions and civil society, and across sectors and territories. We must ensure that wetlands are fully embedded in our climate diplomacy and push for the meaningful implementation of the coming Montreal Global Diversity Framework. To our Brazilian partners, your leadership reminds us that the health of the planet is rooted in the strength of ecosystem and in the courage to alliances. To us Europeans, the challenge before us is immense, but so is the opportunity. Let us commit to a future where wetlands thrive, and with them people, nature, and peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky and Elisa, for beautiful words. Great way to have this opening today. And I would like now to give the floor then to the Deputy Chief of Mission of the Brazil Mission to Europe, Mr. Elias de Luna e Almeida Santos.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation to the mission to represent here and to participate in this meeting. As part of the Amazon Week, we held two events about 2 weeks ago. I think this event was scheduled to take place, I think, on the 10th, and then it was rescheduled, but we are very happy that you could manage to put this meeting together and for us to be here. I have to apologize because I forgot the poster, the Amazon Week, in my office. My colleague, he remembered, but I forgot to bring it, so I apologize. I should have brought it with me today. There is an interesting discussion, of course, this meeting is about the Pantanal, but the relationship between the Pantanal and the Amazon, it's probably a discussion that we could have later, but anyway, we are glad to highlight, I mean, the relevance of another Brazilian, important and beautiful Brazilian biome, such as the Pantanal, and the importance of Pantanal as well for forest conservation and for sustainable development in Brazil. And with that, I think that the presence here of Arthur, he has been, it's the second time that I see Arthur here in Brussels to showcase the progress that the state of Mato Grosso do Sul is doing in this area. So we are happy with that too, that this initiative of the Pantanal Law is having a good follow-up, and with the partnership that you are developing with the European partners here in Brussels. So I congratulate you on that as well. I was asked to talk a little bit about the Amazon Week and the events that we held before, and I think we tried, and then we were talking about COP30 before. We mentioned COP30, and it's certainly the big event of the year for Brazil and for the Brazilian government. Also, I think a reason for us to be hopeful about multilateralism and international cooperation. And I think Brazil and the EU are important partners in that endeavor, and I think we can exercise leadership together for the success of COP30. But what we tried in the previous events of the Amazon Week is precisely to bring together the Amazon subject, the Amazon Week, and the subject of climate change. So we took the opportunity of the COP30 being held this year in Belém to bring COP30 to the attention of the attendees and those interested in the Amazon Week. So we had the first event on the 3rd of June about the bioeconomy and its relationship with climate change. Because the bioeconomy is, of course, an important tool to promote sustainable development and to promote livelihoods for local communities and for the millions of people who live in the Amazon region, in the Amazon biome. And we had the opportunity to see many interesting initiatives and the effort that these economic agents in the region are making to scale up the bioeconomy and to have market access opportunities, including here in Europe, and then to make the case for greater opportunities, economic opportunities, and social opportunities for the peoples of the Amazon region. But at the same time, climate change is a source of vulnerability for the bioeconomy. So there are many phenomena which are related to climate change, droughts, floods, desertification, which of course affect negatively the bioeconomy. And so there is this dual dimension that is important when discussing the bioeconomy, and we had an interesting discussion about this. The second event that we was held in the context of the Amazon Week was on the 5th of June. They say July 1st, so 3rd of June and 2nd and 5th of June. And it was about climate finance and the role of forests in the context of climate finance, and the targets of $1.3 trillion that should be mobilized, 1.3 trillion a year that should be mobilized to meet the needs of adaptation and mitigation of climate change, according to to reach the objectives of the Paris Agreement. I think that the subject of climate finance will be discussed here today. I think it bears a relationship with the discussion today, the panel that we organized 2 weeks ago. So it's very interesting that we have this appearance between independent events in the Amazon Week, and I think that today, I mean, I'll try to be brief, because one of the principles that we try to follow in the Amazon Week is not to speak too much as a government and as an organizer of the Amazon Week, so that I think the stakeholders and the partners have, of course, a central place in the discussions. But I think that we have an opportunity here to also discuss the issue of climate finance, which is central to Brazil's priorities for COP30 as well. We have other things, and with that, I think I can go into the issues that the Brazilian presidency of COP30 is trying to promote in the context of the preparatory work for COP30, and I think that the key word is action, is to implement the commitments that the international community and the countries have reached in the context of the climate negotiations, the kind of multilateral climate negotiations. So it's action and cooperation, and the Brazilian presidency, I think, stressing these two themes a lot, and I think it will continue to do so as we move closer to COP30. In this event, that on the 5th of June, I think one important consensus was that the governments can't do everything alone, that governments need partners, and for you to mobilize the resources necessary to promote sustainable development, and in particular to fight climate change, you need the collaboration and the expertise and the interest and the attention of financial sector, the private sector in general, and also civil society. So, and I think that today is another example of that. I saw that in the title that the Global Gateway is also part of the discussion today, and I think Brazil has had discussions with the EU about worthy projects in the context of the Global Gateway that are consistent, of course, with our own priorities. So that it's important to have a local in country ownership of these initiatives as well. And it seems to me that the Pantanal law, and this is again a good, I think, example of that. It's an initiative by a Brazilian state. Arthur, I think, will talk in more detail about that. And so there is this foundation on the interests and the priorities and the legal basis on a initiative by a Brazilian state and also local stakeholders. So it's very interesting that it has attracted interest here in Europe, and that it's been able to mobilize resources here on the part of the EU as well, and an entity like Wetlands as well, which is organizing this event today. I think I'll stop here. I think that one thing I wanted to add, I think it was mentioned by MEP, and I thank you very much for that and for making the introduction to our discussion. I think that we do need ambition. I think that's one thing that you mentioned in your speech. I think it's an important message that the Brazilian presidency of the COP30 is also trying to get across. We need to be ambitious together. And in terms of action, I think we need to do whatever is necessary to implement the commitments. One of the actions that we need to take, of course, is, for example, to present our NDCs. Brazil has done so. In November, Brazil has already presented its revised NDC in November of 2024. And Brazil is calling, of course, on its partners to do the same and to present their own NDCs, including the EU. Brazil has a strategic partnership with the EU, which of course has positive impact on our cooperation at the multilateral level, and we hope we can work together, Brazil and the EU, to again and to conclude to promote a successful COP30. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Diaz. I think that you really put it in a respect to actually what we're also talking about from global to local. Like for the really great link to the implementation part of keyword is action implementation this year, especially for Brazil. It really links well with what we're going to talk about next, also with Mr. Arthur. So please let's take a look at the video and then I'll get that.
This is that.
Yeah. Just when we're fixing then the sound issue.
Yeah.
Uma crescente preocupação com a conservação do território fez com que Stadwell, seus guardiões, se mobilizassem a fim de reduzir problemas causados por secas extremas e incêndios florestais cada dia mais presentes.
Perigo de seca vem ocorrendo gravemente dentro da nossa comunidade, até o nosso poço artesiano. Ele vem sofrendo as consequências, porque o nível dele vem baixando e a gente precisa socorrer com o córrego do rio Aquidabã, que também vem sofrendo as suas consequências. Eu acredito que seja pelo desmatamento na cabeceira lá da mina, que fica fora da reserva, mas o rio passa dentro da reserva.
Os mais críticos, onde falta muita água, a gente tem que juntar água em baldes, né, em panelas, que a gente tiver, a gente junta essas águas para o nosso consumo. Tem momentos que ela chega a 10 horas, 8 horas, então a gente fica juntando água para que no próximo dia a gente possa utilizar essas águas.
Pensando no futuro do seu território, lideranças e comunidades se organizaram para elaborar um documento de gestão territorial facilitado pela Wetlands International UNEPAM, o Plano de Vida do Território Indígena Cajuel. Esse plano é um instrumento de regulação da relação do povo cajuel com o Estado brasileiro, uma vez que apresenta um conjunto de ações e requisitos que devem ser seguidos para a realização de atividades dentro do território planificado, podendo unificar forças com relação às políticas públicas para atender às demandas desse povo. Com algumas questões ambientais identificadas e apontadas no plano de vida, a comunidade conseguiu criar estratégias de ação que culminaram no fortalecimento da Associação dos Brigadistas Indígenas da Nação Cajuel, a ABIC.
A gente criou a associação com o intuito de melhorar a base dos brigadistas aqui na aldeia Alto de Barros, buscar recursos para a criação do viveiro aqui da nossa comunidade, que a gente tem a preocupação de recuperar a nascente que abastece a aldeia Alves de Barros. Já ao longo dos anos ela vem sendo degradada. E esse ano a gente está com esse projeto de produção de mudas do viveiro, para a recuperação da nascente e também de algumas áreas degradadas.
Dessa parceria, iniciaram trabalhos voltados para a melhoria da qualidade ambiental da terra indígena Cajuel.
A BIC vem fazendo esses trabalhos de recuperação de nascente, trabalhando também com viveiro. Esse é o trabalho que ela vem desenvolvendo dentro da comunidade, né, indígena Cajuel. Aqui nós somos 6 aldeias, né? Então a gente pensa em expandir para todas as aldeias, né? Para eles conhecerem. Alguma aldeia São João já conhece, a aldeia Campinas já conhece o nosso trabalho, só que a gente pensa em trabalhar com esses, né? Com essa comunidade também, com esses brigadistas também que são moradores. Temos brigadistas da Campinas, do São João, da Tomás também temos, né, brigadistas, né, do Prédio Fogo. Então a gente pensa em trabalhar com esses brigadistas e com as comunidades ali também, né?
Os Cajuel têm contado com apoio para fortalecer suas capacidades de monitoramento e vigilância territorial e uso de tecnologias para localizar e mapear as áreas degradadas. Um viveiro foi criado para a produção de mudas nativas, voltado para o reflorestamento, tendo como base um plano de recuperação de áreas degradadas. O viveiro de mudas Nialig, que significa mato na língua Cajuel, está sendo ampliado, o que torna possível uma maior produção e tem metas de incluir espécies de risco de grande importância biocultural, como o pau-santo, cuja extração de sua resina é utilizada pelas mulheres ceramistas Cajuel para a pintura das cerâmicas.
Porque aqui na aldeia ela não nasce. A gente já tentou o máximo, né, trazer algumas mudas, mas não nasce. Se tiver alguma outra oportunidade de a gente achar um lugar, que nem no barro preto, dá para fazer um viveiro, né, tem mudas lá, um projeto, para a gente coletar, né, mais próximo futuramente, né.
Esse é um projeto que tem fortalecido a gestão ambiental e territorial da terra indígena Cajuel e visa alcançar novas áreas que necessitam de recuperação.
The next message is to give the floor to Mr. Atul Fonseca, the Executive Secretary of Environment, Mato Grosso do Sul State in Brazil.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you, on behalf of Wetlands for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here, especially discussing the Pantanal. Usually, I've already been here, as Minister Diaz said, but I've been through Europe in the past 2 years, talking about the biome. And usually, as we get most of the places, no one has ever heard or know about Pantanal. So that's why we're putting this effort to make the largest wetland in the world, more known. And not only to showcase what we've been trying to do in the past couple of years, but especially to tell you that there is a opportunity in place for those who wants to cooperate for the Pantanal preservation and restoration, and we are willing to establish these kind of partnerships in order to make that happen. It started in 2023 with the new Pantanal law. At the time, there was this big discussion around the biome. It is the most well-preserved biome in the whole world, with over 84% of native land still preserved. And we discussed it with all the sectors, with the federal government, academy, communities, farmers, and research institutes. This new regulation for the biome that has set not only a minimum percentage of land that must be kept by the owners, but also some different environments that we have within the biome, which we must preserve by law. It's very important to highlight that Pantanal is 97% owned by private owners. So it's very difficult to discuss regulations or any kind of programs focused on preservation without involving these communities. We have the Caduel indigenous land in our state, as you saw in the video. But apart from that, and two other state conservation units, the rest is within the private sector, basically farmed for over 300 years by cattle ranchers. So what we've done in the law is we set a percentage of land that must be kept in native as native formations. It goes from 50 to 60% of the land, so it's the second largest rate in the country by the forestry code. The first one is the Amazon, so those who are within the Amazon must preserve up to 80% of the land. In Pantanal, 50 to 60%, depending on the characteristics of the property. And after that, as we establish this, I would say, restriction to the private landowners, and especially because we want to create a mechanism to ensure that those who had more preserved areas than needed by law would be willing to keep those lands as the native form. We started to develop some different schemes on payment for environmental services for that farmers. So first, we put in place a very ambitious plan called the Pantanal Pact, which is only the state government investing 1.4 billion reais in Pantanal for different areas: health, education, infrastructure, sustainable development, and the environment. And within the environment group of actions, we developed two payment for environmental services programs that are now in place. So what I'm going to explain, we have a lot of material online. It's already in place and it's working. So the first one is we call the payment for environmental services focus on fire brigades. So as you saw, the Caduel, they have their own. So those kinds of organization, it's fully targeted for social civil organizations, associations, and at some point for research as well. So in this case, farmers, they cannot access that money. So it's fully targeted on traditional communities and NGOs. And the idea is the project establishes a perimeter of monitoring, preventing, and fighting fire. They submit the project and we give them money so they can equip themselves, get proper training, hire men and women power for brigades in order to do this kind of work that you saw in the video. We had 28 projects that applied for this payment for environmental services program. Wetlands was one of the institutions that applied, and now we are developing the net of projects that are going to work through fire into the biome. And the second one is for the private sector stakeholders that are in the territory. So the idea is who has over the 60% of land preserved, we have a direct payment per year, per hectare, for keeping that land. It's quite simple. There is a map behind it. It's based on several indexes that helps us to define who is a priority on having the money, as we have a limited amount of money. So it's not, we have almost 3 million hectares of areas in Pantanal that are protected over what regulation demands. So we still don't have enough money to pay for all of it. But the idea is up to a certain amount of money. If you had more land preserved than demanded by regulation, we're paying a sum which represents the opportunity cost for not becoming or converting that land for cattle ranching. It is, I was telling earlier that it's less than 10 euros per hectare, so it's not a expressive amount of money. But for those who live in the territory, it is precisely the opportunity cost of becoming a cattle rancher or converting that land to expand cattle ranching in the property. So that's the idea. We have a contract. Hopefully we can manage to the point that we have a long-term contract. We still work in a short-term contracts, 2 years, because we never know if the money is coming again next year. So ideally, we would like to have long-term contracts and money to pay for these almost 3 million hectares that we have preserved over the demanded by regulation. This is paid by a public fund. We already have 2 private donators, both of them from the private sector, the Farmers Union, the State Farmers Union, and also the State Farmers Cooperative are the only 2 donators that we have right now. But as it is a public fund, we can have money from international funds, international organisms, and even from other countries targeted to the specific program that you want to wait. And last but not least, within the first year of the program, we are buying the stock that we have of environmental licenses for conversion. So there is, as the environmental license in Brazil has a 4-year expiry date, so we have a 4-year stock of environmental licensing for converting or cleaning land in Pantanal. So we are now approaching those farmers that want to voluntarily sell us back those authorizations. So this, I would say, this is the highest potential deforestation that we can manage to avoid. We're talking about, this is legal deforestation permitted by law with authorization. both state and federal. And we are talking something around 250,000 hectares that probably can be converted in the next 4 years. And we want to buy those licenses and cancel them. Obviously, that's voluntary because, as I said, that's legal deforestation. But the idea is to clean the stock and then have the payment for environmental services mechanism to make possible for the farmer to have a trade-off and not applying again for having those licenses. And well, that with another set of actions that we're taking led to a very interesting result for 2024. The Pantanal biome, as you probably know, was the largest deforestation reduction in our country. So the deforestation reduction from 2023 to 2024 was around 68%. And that's, of course, a sum of efforts, but these programs, as we interview farmers for developing them, we see that they were really important in terms of changing decision-making process of farmers on converting land, because now they have a economic mechanism to compensate them for the economic loss that they understand they have when they cannot decide what to do with over half of their farms. So that's it. And anyone that wants to join the fund, the programs, we are opening now to establish partnerships. And especially this is an action in place. We need more resources in order to provide long-term contracts and maybe get almost this 3 million hectares of native land preserved in the next years. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur, for really invaluable remarks. And I think I speak for everyone. It's really great to see what has been going, the fantastic regional work that is ongoing, and the strategic importance of the Pantanal Pact in ensuring the long-term conservation of one of the world's most iconic and wetlands, the Pantanal biome. So now I think it's a really great link as well from what you're saying to Dr. Chris Baker, my colleague and the director of Wetlands International Europe, to give his remarks as well on some other initiatives. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much for hosting us. Yeah, it was nice to hear what you're doing, because what we've been calling for the last couple of years is really some sort of a financial mechanism that helps to meet the sorts of needs your very detailed and innovative work is throwing up. So I want to just talk very briefly about why wetland partnerships, then talk a little bit about wetlands in general, why you need them, and then give a little bit of a perspective on how we could deal with need. So what we need was really, we're quite convinced we need such a new mechanism, a cooperation instrument, if you like, which helps put more money into wetland restoration and conservation. Wetlands are, if you like, multifunctional systems covering often very large areas. These are not ponds or marshes that you walk past on a walk. They're large landscapes like the Pantanal. And they offer a wide range of benefits to people and nature, not just locally, but also in many cases our global economy is plugged into them, including the European. So there's a collective responsibility, I think, to try to safeguard these systems. And that, in these sorts of instances, leads you to the conclusion that you need some sort of a financial mechanism to support their sustainability. Partnerships such as this would be agreements, if you like, between, in this case, the European Union and partner countries, such as Brazil, something that would be negotiated between them and with different objectives, such as good wetland governance, strengthening sustainable value chains, ensuring sustainability of production and trade, as well as the things you might expect a wetland conservation organization would want, which is restoration and conservation of the natural biome. And I think the Pacto de Pantanal demonstrates that this need is alive and well and needs to be discussed. First of all, just a quick kind of, it feels like a sort of a school lesson, what wetlands are, so that you understand that already MET Corrado did a nice job, really, better than I could probably, of explaining it in a few words. But wetlands are essential to all life on Earth. I think we've been living under the misconception for many years that there's wetlands over here and we're over here. No, we live in them, survive because of them, and therefore we need to take them more seriously as part of how we approach development. 40% of the world's plant and animal species are found in wetlands. They absorb 50 times more carbon than tropical rainforests, and they're responsible for the water and livelihoods of about 1 billion people globally. Think about those numbers, it becomes into focus why it's important to do something rather serious for them. And when you get to the scale, they're really important for our climate resilience and for what's coming towards us, or in many ways is already with us in terms of climate change. They're more than just regulators of carbon and nutrients. As I said, they're places where we live. Civilization has developed in wetlands. They're places where you found water, land you could farm, food you could harvest. You had water as a natural infrastructure to conduct trade and grow your economy. And so you'll find even now many of our major cities are already in wetlands, or what were wetlands. Even the Netherlands, where I live, is actually a wetland. A very big wetland, but it's a wetland. And so the success and resilience and sustainability of our economies really is closely intertwined. And that's paradoxical because at the same time as we've been understanding this over the last 30 to 40 years, the rates of loss have been accelerated. We're now about 35% of our global wetlands have been lost since about 1970. And so with that, we get the risks of the degradation coming back on us. And we're experiencing that in terms of fires, floods, droughts, often at levels and scales that were quite unimaginable even 10 or 20 years ago. So it's a serious issue. The Pantanal is one example, of course, and one of the most spectacular, I would argue. I've had the pleasure of being there. It sort of captures your heart. But it's also part of another even bigger system which runs right the way down through to Argentina, and where the rivers Pará and Paraguay join and flow into the ocean, the South Atlantic Ocean. And there you have also a whole string of spectacular wetlands that follow the river course down to that area, the Iberia marshes, and then you have the Pará Delta itself. All super spectacular biodiversity, amazing natural values, storing carbon, providing resilience to floods, but also similar to the Pantanal under severe pressure from growing agricultural intensification. Also is a key trade artery in the interior of Southern America into the ports of Buenos Aires and further to Europe. So again, these connections between major wetland landscapes in Europe. And yeah, they're suffering the consequences from it. We're working as an organization to try and keep that river free flowing, but the pressure to build ports and to improve navigation along that reach really a lot of threats on the river at the moment. And over use of drainage of land for cattle raising in the Pará Delta particularly has created sort of large fires and smog and health issues within Buenos Aires. So again, some pretty big issues are facing us there. And it's not the only serious large wetland system in Latin America that needs attention. A totally different landscape, much less green anyway, is the high Andes regions, the Puna region of Latin America, so northern Argentina, Chile. And there you have, I've also had the pleasure of being quite spectacular systems of lakes, marshes, and salt marshes up there. It's a remarkable remote place, and people have lived there for centuries, eking a living out of herding livestock, some artisanal mining of rare metals. And yeah, but what's also there and what's been discovered in recent years is also huge reserves of lithium underneath, particularly the salinas. And that's another serious challenge to maintaining wetlands and also maintaining our economies, and one which the EU is very closely connected to. Removing the lithium is in the brackish water under the wetlands. You pump it out, you leave it to dry, and you have a lithium-rich sediment that you can process, which is fantastic for our green transition, but also rather unfortunate for the region, which suffers a lot of drying out and degradation because of it. Large volumes of water have to be taken out, which affect regional water bodies and regional water tables. And as a result, there's a lot of out-migration and loss of agriculture in the region because of this. So again, another development conundrum that needs, I would say, similar types of investment to try and work out more sustainable ways to abstract their lithium whilst keeping the environment where they are in with their culture. So just a couple of examples I can go on. We have I've worked for years in the Niger Delta in Africa. So 2 million people totally dependent upon that building system. Also, hundreds of millions of European waterbirds depend upon it. So there's a nature connectivity to West Africa, or you could talk about the carbon that's stored in Indonesian tropical tree swamp forests, which is also, I think, 10 times more carbon under the ground than in the forests, would you believe? But they're also being lost in terms of development conundrums for palm oil and paper pulp production. So all these areas need serious development scale investment to reach more sustainable models so that we can benefit from their services and the values they provide, but also keep the values for nature in the place where they are. And that's why we think really these wetland partnerships are very important. I mean, it's not that we don't have recognition of the issues, of course. We have our conventions, we have the Ramsar Convention, CBD. We have fairly good, actually, by and large, recognition of the importance of wetlands now in the big conventions and in Europe as well. We also have a whole string now of large initiatives which are coming through to try and implement the targets within these. My own organization and many others are involved in the Mangrove Breakthrough, the Freshwater Challenge, Peatland Push, which is a comparatively new one, which are really action-oriented initiatives to try and mobilize, and we're getting a lot of commitment for that. All look tell you much better than I can what's happening there. But still, in the end, you need some serious sorts of cooperation to make them happen, to make things move on the ground rather than we're making noise and trying to raise attention. And I think a wetland partnership construction would be something that might really fit that really rather well. There's something where we have this cooperation between partner countries who bring their needs together in a careful and thoughtful way, such as Arthur has just explained. And then you dialogue with the EU and talk about, well, what would be the point of contact? How would we support? You turn that into a partnership, perhaps underpinned by some form of memorandum. This is how a similar initiative for the forests works, which then creates the opportunity for member states to invest according to that plan in the countries. That's really, in a nutshell, what the partnerships are. We would, of course, want them to tick a lot of the good boxes, such as a green economy, decent green jobs, social equity, youth and women's empowerment. There's many ways you could frame them. And when you start to look at that, you start to see obvious ways to align it with existing finance mechanisms. We've already discussed the opportunity that the Global Gateway provides. Many of the criteria in the Global Gateway, whether it's sustainable development, ticks a lot of these boxes. So there are ways and means that we can look at, or at least the Commission and the partner countries to look at, to try and channel this money towards wetlands. What we're really doing is calling for that to happen now. And perhaps it's an opportunity, we hope it is, moving up to the next COP in Belém. We have this great initiative, the Pact of the Pantanal, and the discussions we're having. Perhaps we could use that as a sort of a soft launch with the Commission to really put the issue out there and see if we can gain a bit more political traction, that this becomes a real mechanism in the years ahead. So, thanks.
Thank you, Chris Baker, for your intervention. I think it's very clear how we can package in the and there are opportunities for this. There's momentum for it, and I really hope that we can continue moving forward from this conversation. And now I'm going to open the floor for questions as well. But firstly, I'll give the floor to Breno, because I believe my colleague might have some interventions.
Thank you, Paula. It's a pleasure here. All of you. My name is Breno Mello. I'm working in Wetlands Office in Brazil, and about 7 months. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our program, Corredor Azul. Is I think it's almost 10 years of program. We have now in phase 3, and the program connects people, nature, and economy along the Paraguay River, like Chris told a little bit. And our goals is expand the impact of the efforts for the benefits of wetlands, economy, and people. You saw the video, Caduel, work with protection with you see the protected area, and we need, I think this kind of work inspire other actors and regions to adopt the approach and to develop to reach new areas or new protected areas. For example, we have other actions there in Pantanal area. For example, the consolidation of the Parque Estadual do Pantanal do Rio Negro. Wetlands Fire Intelligence Systems is connected with Crusade, with PASS. CIFAL is a program to alarm, to monitoring the fires. Is a good platform. We have implementation, but we need to increase for all the states and bring to other states like Mato Grosso, for example, because we have the headwaters of Pantanal, headwaters, when the springs, when the rivers born there, and these are area very important to preserve it too. And we need a feasibility analysis of sustainability mechanism for Parque Estadual do Pantanal do Rio Negro. And we have a collaboration with other studies like PASS, for example. We have a studies with PASS about 3 years ago, and collaboration with other institutions and projects, for example, Embrapa and other NGOs. Maybe I think it's just some example of our work there, the field. But now we have Wetlands and MUPAN in Brazil participates of the CONAMA, the Council of the Environmental. Very important to us to participate of this council. And now about 1 month ago, where we rebuilding the CNCU, the Committee of Wetlands. Yeah, so help me here, Paula. And is a very important commission of governance of the wetlands in Brazil. Is very good initiative of the federal government and bring it to us some opportunity to work with Pantanal and other wetlands, for example, Mangues and other places in Brazil. And I think it's this.
Yes,
Thank you.
So now we go to the questions. If anyone has any questions in the audience, did you see anything in the chat? Maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't see you. So
Hello, I'm Irina from UNESCO Natural Sciences. Thank you very much for this event. Very informative. Thank you for inviting. Thank you for telling the story and bringing attention to Pantanal. Well, it's more remark, reflection. Well, Pantanal is also a World Heritage Site, Natural World Heritage Sites, and vice versa. It means that was nominated, the nation was back in 2000. What it means, how I interpret that, of course, the nomination for World Heritage, it's conservation part. And the structure of this nomination, it's conservation of this beauty of ecosystem, biodiversity, etc. Nomination of Man and Biosphere, it's another type of program that deals, and its composition and its DNA, it's conservation of biodiversity, but also working with community, with research and the governance of this program, nominated by at governmental level. And also it has in this DNA research, community, and economical development. So I want to believe, and I know that there are teams in national level that are working, supporting the community Pantanal since 2000s. I see so many actions. Thank you of telling the story and things that you bring, and I believe that our colleagues and site managers are contributing. I was thinking of how from institutional level at our secretariat in Paris, and also there is a liaison office here in Brussels of UNESCO, how we can support these initiatives on the ground. So just
thinking that, of course, there are different institutional level mechanisms that bring together science and community, all this man by sphere program and then the nation by sphere, but that have a lot of capacity building, different actions. Then, of course, our science policy interface, and we stated all the good, well, last year event, CBD, coming of 30 plus flagging that there would be international World Congress of Vice Reserves in China, where there are also the overall agenda for men and vice program would be settled. So we have good opportunities to continue talking about Pantanal and just saying, of course, that we should join our voices and common messages, keep talking. Organization as UNESCO, we have the soft power together with Veterans International Review, waiting up well. Just to say, in my own capacities, thank you very much, Chris, Leah, to organize this event. Count on us, on me, for further actions, and let's continue in Pantanal.
I ask something. So may I ask a question? Yes, please. So maybe it's for all of you. So how can we ensure that wetlands protection and restoration receive the political visibility and financial prioritization they deserve ahead of COP30? And according to you, what kind of cooperation or support from the EU would make a meaningful difference?
Number first.
I mean, I think it's within Brazil. I believe that from the past 10 years, Pantanal has received a lot of attention, sometimes for good reasons and sometimes for bad reasons. We had, for example, in 2020, the largest fire events that we've ever had within the biome. And since then, there is this effort on developing governance and strength, the connections between federal, state, and municipality levels, but also with the NGOs. And I think that now Pantanal has its room in negotiations and politics within Brazil. But as we're talking about a biome that provides ecosystem services for the whole world, for us is a bit frustrating that it doesn't get like the same attention and flow of resources as the Amazon, for example, which is explained in part by its size, but not by its importance in specific subjects as biodiversity. For example, we're talking about the richest region in terms of biodiversity density in the world. And we have a lack of international resources to the biome and to the programs. We've been for almost a decade receiving a lot of pressure from civil society organization around what we were going to do in terms of preserving, making the regulations more restrict. And I think that we've done a nice job so far, but at the moment that we put in place the new regulation and now we have the programs in place, we were awarded 3 or 4 prizes for that in the country. And some NGOs that historically they were discussing the Pantanal with us for the good and the bad reasons. They like wrote this articles and books and etc. about how great the initiatives that are in place are right now. We have the whole sector support, but we don't see any money flowing to the initiatives. So that's the and being very transparent. That's why I value this kind of possibility of partnerships, because as a state government in Brazil, we don't know how to access European capital for doing that preservation. So it doesn't seem that the same flow that we have for criticism and asking us for solutions and actions, as we have some tools in place, it seems like the flow doesn't work anymore. So okay, now there is a program, it's tangible. You can say where you want to put the money, and then you have the civil society in place, like wetlands, to make sure that the money is flowing where it should be going. And then it seems like the interest is not in place anymore. So that's how I value this kind of possibility of establishing these partnerships.
And what do you think the opportunity the COP13 can offer to the Pantanal into the program? How do you see the Pantanal featuring the COP13?
We are making a very big effort, because it is a much better place to have a COP. Finally, and we are calling in Brazil. So in Brazil, it is called the Forest COP. And again, within Brazil, we have to fight to make sure it's not the Amazon COP, because our country has 6 biomes. Amazon is less than half of our country, and our state, for example, is almost 3,000 kilometers away from the Amazon. So I don't know, when you think about Europe, how many countries you can cross within 3,000 kilometers. So, and we are in half of the country. We are not even in the south of the country. So again, there is this effort even within Brazil to make sure that the other biomes get enough attention and floor to showcase the initiatives. But our president, the president of COP, Embaixador André Correa do Lago, he's making a very big institutional effort to try to make this the implementation COP. So that's our hope, that we finally can see in place some any sort of mechanisms, because even not being in the Amazon, I understand that a biome that size, where deforestation is a big issue, and it seems like it's been tackled recently by our federal government, we have somehow to create a climate financing mechanisms in order to make the environmental agenda stands in the long term. Otherwise, we're just seeing a very short period of time where deforestation goes down and then goes up again, because we didn't give any kind of social and economic solution for the population. So this is that's why we believe it's a very important. So it's time to highlight Brazil, the actions. We have a lot of challenge to deal with, and that's true, but we also have many important and scaled up initiatives in the country that should get financed so they can stand in the long term.
Maybe if we not ask a question to
Yes, I'd like to jump in, but please ask
because
first. Excellency, I don't know if you can speak first.
in November there will be the Senate summit. For those who are not aware, it's the summit where the EU will meet with the counterpart in Latin America. And I think there will be discussions on investments. And so how big is the opportunity that part of the money can go to also environmental actions, or so in particular wetland restoration and conservation? So the discussion about investment will not only be around big infrastructure, big transport, waterways, but can go also to ecosystems, payment for ecosystem services, so other type of investment. What's the possibility for you that this type of conversation can be brought at the CELAC summit ahead of COP30, because it's just before the COP?
Let me first, thank you for the question. Comment on your first question about how to ensure that wetlands receive priority for COP30 and life resources and finance. Here, I think that, and I will refer to one thing that Arthur just said. Here, it's important not to lose sight of the fact that although a discussion on forests has a role in the broader discussion about climate change, we must not lose sight of the fact that the major or the most important sources of greenhouse gases are still energy consumption and industrial activity, particularly in developed countries. So, and Brazil, of course, is not afraid of holding a discussion on the role of forests in climate change. And it's important that it was for that reason that Brazil has decided to offer and is hosting the COP30 in Belém at the end of the year. Here, it's interesting that Arthur said that the COP's been called the Forest COP. But I think that, and a colleague of mine made this precision during the other event of the Amazon Week, and I thought it was very interesting. And I think he quoted Minister Marina Silva. And she said that, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I stand to be corrected on that, but she said that at the COP30 in Belém is rather a COP in the forest, not a forest COP. So I think this demonstrates what our perspective is about this issue. But having said that, it's important to prioritize, of course, and many of the initiatives that Brazil has supported or is leading in this preparatory process towards the COP involve forests and involve finance to combat deforestation. There's the TFFF and then other initiatives which aim to mobilize funding and resources in finance to forest conservation. And I think wetlands, of course, and Pantanal, and then, of course, the Amazon as well, would stand to benefit from that. But we must not lose sight of the fact that still, in terms of contributions to climate change, energy, industrial activity are still the main culprits, if you like to put it that way, or the activities that are most responsible for the challenge of climate change. About the second, sorry if I was long in my first reply, about CELAC EU, I don't have a precise answer to your question. And I think it was said here before that sustainable development and environment are one of the central, I think, criteria for the EU to allocate funds under the Global Gateway. It's a EU program. So I think there is an opportunity at CELAC EU, the CELAC EU Summit, which will take place in Colombia in November. It's an opportunity for bi-regional cooperation. I think Global Gateway has played an important or a relevant or has had a relevant place in the discussions within the CELAC EU summit processes. In the last summit in 2023, Global Gateway was an important subject of discussion, and I think the parties both on the European side and on the Latin American Caribbean side, are in the process of discussing priority projects that could maybe receive funding from Global Gateway. But I believe this requires consultations at the national levels as well. So each country will have probably to conduct discussions with the EU to identify and prioritize national priorities within this larger context of Global Gateway. Sorry if I was too long in my
Yes, just a quick thoughts about it. I'm not an answer. So where can we find the money? The money, but I think that it would be crucial to find mechanisms, also private and public together. And I think that the issue of having a public level that is monitoring and guaranteeing all the value chain of the project, it's really important and crucial also because we faced in the late past the problem of the CO2 market and the scandals that we saw about the uncertain amount of CO2 really stocked into the project or thanks to the project. And so also the reputation of this kind of mechanism had a big problem to face. No? So to have a government directly involved in the monitoring and the transparency of the project is a good starting point, I think, also to facilitate private sectors to invest. And you were talking about also private investors, no, at the Brazilian level, but maybe it should be one of the market mechanism that in the COP will be discussed also. But we are afraid that this kind of discussion should take away the focus on the crucial importance of the mitigation, no? Because it's that all those are themes and issues that we must put hand in hand, but without the potential. Sorry, I'm quite tired. The potential. Thank you very much. The mitigation, because if we lower the ambition of mitigation, we can do nothing to adapt and to protect our environment and our precious ecosystems all over the world. So we are now facing one debate in Europe that is not so good for us, because we have to, in the climate law, we have to build the target for 2040, and some political forces are trying to put into the target also mechanisms of CO2 sequestration or compensation in order to have more flexibility to reach the target of 90% for 2040. But we know from the science that we need almost 90% of net target on CO2. So we want clear and transparent and solid markets, but we don't want to have them inside the target. So it's a discussion we have to manage with a lot of attention. But the market, not only on the CO2 issue, but also on the ecosystemic services, it's an important debate also to put other issues inside the market, not only CO2, but biodiversity and water regulation, air fighting against air pollution, all the the wonderful things that a sane ecosystem could do for us, no? Soils, and we all know what I'm talking about. So it's a big challenge, and as I will say it in the opening session, is not an easy moment for Europe to talk about it, but we have to believe that the COP30 and the Baku to Belém path should be an important platform to stay together and to find solutions together and to continue to debate and continue to remember each other that we have to keep the ambition high. No, also because it is an international moment where we can face the thing that a lot of us said from a lot of time, that decarbonization is not only for climate, is not only for ecosystems, but is also for peace. And because every war we are facing, it's around gas or oil, more or less. And so we can also lower the level of the geopolitical tensions between the decarbonization ambitions. So we have a lot of crises, but also some decisions we could make that have a positive impact on all the crises we are facing. So let's try to keep our target clear and the ambition high, and let's stay together, please, because please.
Yeah, that's a great remark that you're making, MVP Annalisa. And I think that is also key to say here that, that we shouldn't lose sight of the regional and local actions that are ongoing or can, be scaled. There are actually, implementation actions that are supporting Brazil and other parties to actually achieve the commitments and the Paris Agreement, but also other multilateral environmental agreements. So these are really key in the realm. And as you said, I think, there's still a lot of positive things to look for and opportunities to go for under those circumstances. Sadly, I think we're out of time for more questions, right? We need to close it. But thank you so much for everyone. The last thing we'll have then, because I presume that you already gave your closing remarks with this last speech, right?
Yeah, I think that.
That was, yes, I thought so as well. I just wanted to make sure because it wasn't meant like it was after a question, right? So thank you so much. Yes, for sure. So we'll show the video of 30 seconds and then we'll take a picture and we are done for the day. And thank you so much to everyone for being here.
I am home to more than 4,700 species of plants and animals, and I can't breathe. That is because I'm on fire for many years now. Climate change dries me out, worsens the winds, raises the temperature. My animals are suffering, and many even died. I am the Pantanal, and I need your help, because alone I cannot save myself. I need support for my people who rely on my services to survive.
You should do it as a picture because that's needs to be.
Yes.